Well, hello, freedom seekers. This is Non-Monogamous Mark coming to you tonight on a Tuesday night where I'm going to be talking about the weekly Monday night wrap-up tonight. And usually we do this on Monday night, and I was here last night to do it. And as I started out, I even commented that we're having some internet problems, and I just hope that it will go well. And then at some point in the video, I realized that the internet had dropped me totally, and so therefore I just got shut off. And so I went ahead and rescheduled it for 7:30 tonight, Pacific Standard Time. But then when I did that, then I realized that my partner Kat, she had a coaching session tonight with a client of hers in England. And so that particular session, I don't know what's been going on with our internet, but I didn't want to have a problem tonight for either her coaching call. It was their hour-long coaching calls, and that was at 7 o'clock, and so it went from 7 to 8. And so I didn't want her to have a problem with her coaching client, and that her coaching clients paid good money for her coaching calls with them each week. And so I decided to go ahead and tonight, then right before she got on her coaching call, we chatted about it, and I decided to go ahead and just postpone my live stream until 8:15 tonight. And right now it is 8:15 p.m. And so got on here just a little bit early so that I could give people a time to kind of get on board with me and to kind of chat a little bit and let you know why we're doing this on Tuesday instead of doing it on Monday night. And after we do this here tonight, then I will take the previous recording, which I guess went for 24 minutes, and I'll go ahead and take that down. And so it'll just leave this recording up. And so if you want to hurry up and see that, then you can go watch that. But by the time you probably see this video, then that'll be long gone. So anyway, we're excited to be here, and it seems like that tonight my internet is going much better than it did yesterday, and so that's really a good thing. And even Kat's daughter, who lives with us here, and she was commenting about how the internet was giving her problems as well. So first time I'd actually ever had enough problem with it, though, that I got kicked off. But, oh well, that's just how it goes. So thanks for being flexible with me. And we're here then on part 5 of The Power of Your Words. And tonight's real topic is about what's next. Part 5, and we're going to be finishing up then next week with part 6, and that'll then complete the whole series on the power of your words. And then I want to take the whole series is really about helping you to create the life that you love the most using the power of your words, and helping you to really understand how to use the power of your words and just how powerful your words are. And this all came first when Kat and I first got into our relationship, which we started our relationship this coming Saturday. It'll be 7 years. We're celebrating an anniversary. And so when I first started to have conversation with her, which was probably about 2 weeks into our relationship, about some things that I felt very strongly about. And one of those things was that I had a conversation with her about the power of your words. And she was going through some things with her ex. She was divorced, but she was still having to deal with a lot of stuff with her ex-husband. She'd only been divorced for about a year when we met, or maybe even 6 months. So maybe it hadn't even been a full year. But so she was still going through a lot of stuff with her ex, and so she didn't understand how powerful her words could be, and both in a good way and in a bad way. And so I started talking to her about the power of her words. And then recently, just really about 8 weeks ago, I was chatting with a young lady, a friend of mine, that again, got in a conversation with her about the power of her words. And so then I realized that in that conversation that, I've never really done a full training on the power of the words. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that here on my YouTube channel. And that's how this all came about, because people oftentimes, they just really don't understand how powerful their words can be for creating the life that they love the most. And that's what this is all about, is about creating the life that you love the most. And that's one of the things I talk about every week here on the Monday night wrap-ups. But so we've talked about then in getting started on this. We started out week 1. We talked about your abundant ocean. And that's kind of something that I'll continue to kind of bring back. The fact is, very excited. We got Kat and I, we have a 16-week course that is kicking off on Wednesday night. That's tomorrow night. And it's through our Elf Academy, Easy, Liberated, and Fun Academy. And it's a course that we sold to people, and for 16 weeks, where we then are going to be there spending about 90 minutes live with people for each of the 16 weeks on Wednesday night. And that is that we do 3 steps, or the course is called 3 Steps to Creating Your Easy, Liberated, and Fun Life. And this because, it's almost 14 years ago, I started to practice ethical and consensual non-monogamy. But even before then, I was involved in forums on the internet and conversations and discussions for 3 years before that with people. And one of the things then that after I really started getting involved myself, living an ethical and consensual non-monogamous life, that I started to realize that oftentimes they just brought from their monogamous life, they just brought some of that same baggage into their ethical, consensual, and non-monogamous life. And so what happens is that they get into their ethical, consensual, and non-monogamous life, and they may be having more relationships with people, having more sex with more people, kind of like what I talk about here every week, where I talk about having a life that gives you more sex with more people more often. And that's really what I want to help you to create. And so, people create that in their life, but then they really end up struggling with it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to pause here for a moment real quick. I did not realize that when I set up here, I did not get my laptop plugged in on the power. There we go. Now it's plugged in, and so we're back, and I got power this time. My laptop started to phase out on me. Okay, so back to this now. And so people living the ethically and consensually non-monogamous lives, they were having more sex with more people more often, but they were still struggling with their life, and their life was still hard. And including me, that I lived that life for quite a while as well, as living my ethical and consensual non-monogamous life. And then finally I reached a place that I says, well, wait a minute, why is this? And actually this was at a point where after I started my relationship with Kat and started having some conversations with her, because I straight up, I told her, I says, well, I've been very successful in business, but I've had a hard life. My life is not easy. It's difficult. And her middle name, in fact, is Easy, and not because she's easy sexually, although she is pretty easy there too. But her life is her middle name. She coined herself for her own middle name, or her nickname is Easy. And in part, then, that's because that she really created for herself an easy life. And so she'd look at me and she'd say, well, why is your life hard? And one of the things that I had already started talking to her about was how, in fact, she pointed out to me, she brought it to me. She says, this is probably about 2 or 3 months into our relationship. And she goes like, wow, Mark, I am just really blown away. I have never in my whole life met anybody or seen anybody that lived a life as intentional as you do. And then something I really believed about, very importantly about, and then that's something that she's picked up and learned a lot from me on, is living an intentional life. And so then there we were then and she says to me then, she says, well, but if you live your life intentional and you talk to me about creating your life and you talk to others about creating your life, then why is your life hard? Isn't that, I mean, if I'm understanding everything right, Mark, isn't that then what you create? You create a hard life for yourself? Boy, you talk about slapping me in the face. And yeah, she just fed me my words right back to me. And she's done that a number of times over the years. And I love her for that, because I need to be challenged myself. And that's how then with like the course that we just a little bit ago, we're going over the PowerPoint slides that we're going to be using for the course tomorrow night. And that we talk about how the synergy that she and I have together, and that's why we started to grow so rapidly, is because that synergy that she and I create and have together. And so anyway, we got this course that we're going to be doing on starting launching tomorrow night. And if you want to know more about that, there's a link down in there in the description. And you can just, it'll take and ask you to register to get information and so forth. But you can go ahead and check that out if that's something you're interested in, joining us for 16 weeks. Now, if you can't afford the course, then send me an email. We do have some scholarships available as well. And so I'm not opposed to giving out some scholarships to have you attend if it's something that you just really don't have the money for right now. Because during this time of COVID, we understand that, I mean, even just this past week, they've been talking about the unemployment numbers. And last Friday, the unemployment numbers were released through the federal government, and they weren't good. People are not happy about the unemployment situation going on right now. And it's only going to get worse for a while. And so whatever your situation is, we got stimulus money, the government's sending out, they're talking about more stimulus money. And I don't know what your situation is. We just want to take and be of service to you and be of help to you. And so if that 16-week course is something you can benefit from, we'll talk to you about a scholarship if that's something. And my email address is down there in the description. Email me and we can get you squared away. But then there's another thing there in this description as well, and that's a free bonus. And I want you to grab that free bonus before it goes away. This is a free bonus that I myself, over the last 5 years, have spent over $10,000 being able to have the same thing that this will give you for free. And so please don't miss out on that. Even if it's something that you don't think that you can utilize or would use right now, go ahead. It's through a company called Groove that Kat and I invested in last May. And part of our investment, we don't have like ownership. We don't get a portion of the profits or anything like that. But part of our investment is that we get to give away some things once in a while. And right now they're giving us the opportunity to give away the free Groove membership. And that again cost Kat and I over the last 5 years, because we paid a monthly fees to 3 different companies to provide us the same tools that we get from the Groove company alone. And so over the last 5 years, we spent over $10,000. And this free membership, they won't even ask you for a credit card. And it is a lifetime membership. And so like if I didn't jump over to Groove, those 3 companies, I'd still be paying them each and every month. And so even though I spent $10,000 with them over the last 5 years, I would still be spending money with them, and it would be going on and on and on every month, because these are things that are very important to me in the use of my Digital Life and Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. The email list that you sign up on in order to join our email list is a part of that process. That there's a landing page. And that's a company that cost me $99 a month to have the landing page. And that's where you put your email address in. And then there's a company that collects the email addresses that I pay $30 a month to. And so that I can then send emails out. And then there's been trainings that we've taken and just all kinds of things. And so this then is going to give you everything that I've spent the last 5 years. I spent over $10,000 on. It's going to give to you for free for life. And so take advantage of that before that bonus goes away. And when that'll be, I don't know. That's up to Groove. And they just tell me when it's, like, okay, here, Mark, you can go ahead and give these free lifetime memberships away right now. And so that's all I can tell you. And so let's then go ahead and let's talk about then, what's next is the topic tonight then. And that's, we talked about then last week about this analogy where you're in, you get to this river, and that river flows downstream into your abundant ocean. But here you are, you're in this boat and or a raft, whatever you want to imagine it being, and you're ready to float down the river. But what's next? You see, because without being in your abundant ocean, how will the power of your words create the life that you love the most and live it? And how can you use your words, the power of your words, and start to live that life today or tomorrow? Well, and because I'm doing this training series broke up like this, a week apart, it won't be today or tomorrow, but by the end of the whole series next week, you will be able to take and go through each of the videos, pick up all the little individual pieces, and you will be able to take then and use the power of your words to start to create the life that you love the most. And you'll be able to do that in 1 to 2 days. Because the question came up then is, okay, once you learn how to use the power of your words, how long does it really take to create a life that you love the most, and how long does that take? And it takes 1 to 2 days to make some shifts, some changes that are necessary in your life to be able to actually start to create that life. And so I kind of like to think of it as getting in that boat on the river, and it's like, once you're in the boat and you're flowing downstream, it's what I call in my coaching practice. I call this to my clients. We'll be talking a lot about this in the course that we're doing for the next 16 weeks. And that is you get into what's called flow state. And if you can imagine, going to a football field, and that football field has had an attack by a whole bunch of gophers. And there are gopher mounds all over that football field. What a mess that would be trying to run, a football game without flattening those gopher mounds out. And so, that's one of the things that we call those gopher mounds, the obstacles that come along in our life, and that we bump into them, we trip over them, and all kinds of different things happen. And if you can imagine that going on in a football game, it could cause a team to lose the game. And so the floating, or we call it flowing on that river. Flowing on that river means that you get into this flow state where it's like before you get started, you go through and you remove all the obstacles, any of the boulders that are in the way and stuff like that. It would be like going to that football field and just flattening it out. And so there's nice and smooth, a good solid surface to run on. And you can then have a football game. And so that's what flow state is like, is where you can it's just wide open and you're able to just flow with your life. And you're not in your abundant ocean yet, but you are on the way. And so that's like, one of the things that every Monday night I come here and I talk about, that I am transitioning my income from being where I'm trading time for dollars, just like most people do, and, have to show up for work in order to make any money. And so I do that, but I'm transitioning to an online income. And so I'm in flow state for that. I'm not there yet, but yet I know where I'm going, and I know the timeline I'm working with, and I'm very excited about that. And I used to be in the travel business, and I used to be a travel designer and a travel writer, and owned a travel business and booked vacations for people, had travel agents that worked for me. And the thing is with if you came in and you booked a vacation with me, when you left that, I'll bet you would, within a week, you would tell some people because usually people are all excited about it. Now, they're not on the vacation yet, but yet the research shows that just by the act and function of booking that vacation, there's a lot of health benefits that come to you because you start living that vacation the moment you book it. Even though you're not there, you start living that vacation through your feelings, your words, and your thoughts. It's like, I know I'm headed there. I'm not there yet, but I'm headed there. And so that's what this is like, you see, in getting into flow state, in creating a life that you absolutely love. A life where you're there in your abundant ocean. You may not be there yet. I'm not making my $20,000 a month yet, in which then I've got a goal for $200,000 a month, And so, but I'm not there yet. And yet I'm excited and I'm in that flow state because I know that I'm progressing every single week and moving in the direction of that abundant ocean that I'm creating. And so I want to ask you, what's next for you in how you end up deciding that, how you end up creating that. You see, because like how I used to live my life, and I know that many people are the same way, and that is that they really put their life together by piecemeal. And so the question for you is do you create the life? When I ask you, what's next? When you sort that out, do you just take it by piecemeal or do you take it by design? And taking it by piecemeal, you're just making it up as you go along. Is that how you have worked your life to right up to this point? Well, you see, that's just the opposite of how when I started to make some of these big changes in my life over the last 10 years that I've been making these changes, is that I started to design my life. And actually it's about 16 years now. Whoa. And because I'm coming up on 14 years that I've been living my ethical and consensual non-monogamous life. And it was about 2 years before that I started to sit down and say, okay, I don't want to keep living my life this way anymore. And I don't want to live my life in sexual misery anymore. And I sat down about 16 years ago, and I decided it was time to actually write out and design my life. And this goes back to our very first week's video, I think. It was either week 1 or week 2, where I talked about that you want to take and be really clear about what it is that you want. And so that's with using your words. And so your words also work with your thoughts and they work with your feelings. And so this is what we call our personal energy. Your personal energy is your words, your thoughts, and your feelings. And that's what you create your life with. And so with that, then it's your words that you want to take and either have them in writing and you want to have them be really clear. And a lot of times I'll go ahead and when I start this whole design process, just think of yourself as an architect designing your life. I mentioned yesterday in the video, and I probably went a little too long on it, but I mentioned how yesterday, that my job, my kind of like my last decent job that I had about, 25, 30 years ago, probably 30 years ago now, long time ago. The last job that I had, I've been unemployed for a long time and they're self-employed. But yeah, the last job I had was selling nails. And selling nails, I'd go on to construction sites and I had to read blueprints. And can you imagine without a blueprint trying to build a house or trying to build and construct anything of any quality? I went on to these high-rise office parks where they were building these, Boeing in Seattle was building these structures that were 8 stories tall and office buildings. And I sold nails for those. And there were special nails for going into steel beams. And but I had to be able to go on to these sites, whether it's talking about a 8-story office building that Boeing is building, or whether it's talking about just building somebody's home, and they just took some nails, but it's a different nail that you use for the 2x4s than it is that you're going to use for like the finished pieces. And so there's a lot of different things you have to know, and you have to be able to look at the blueprint. But can you imagine if there wasn't a blueprint? And I mentioned yesterday that like in earthquake zones, we're here in California, and Seattle is the same thing. And there are certain places in Seattle, I don't know what there are here in California, but I'm sure there are places here in Seattle or in California as well. I've never sold nails here, and so I'm not familiar with building codes here like I was in Seattle. But there's certain places in Seattle where you have to take, when you put the 2x4s together to build a house, you have to use a nail called a 148 diameter nail. And that's a much thicker, much heavier diameter nail than a standard 16 penny nail. And a 148 diameter nail, that was because in those particular areas they were needing a little more beefage for earthquake protection. And so that's why then the architect does the designing and so forth will go ahead and knows what the codes are in particular areas, and then we'll go ahead and make a blueprint. And then those blueprints are submitted to the city or county, and then they're have to make some changes and things of that nature. But you've got a set of blueprints. But how do you approach your life? Why not approach your life the same way? Can you imagine buying a computer, going down to wherever you're going to buy a computer or ordering it online or whatever, and the computer that you're going to be buying, they didn't create any plans on building that computer. They just kind of one day ordered up a whole bunch of parts for computers and they started throwing them together. Wouldn't you rather know that there is some kind of real solid plan for that computer that was built by? It was built by design. But why not do the same thing for your life? And so in starting this process then, the topic again tonight is what's next. And so let's talk about what's next. And so in talking about what's next, I want you to go back to, I think it was week 1 or week 2 when we talked about, having clarity. And I gave a homework assignment, of what you'd like to be creating in the next 12 months. But we're going to now do one step further than that. And that is, I want you to be able to take and write down this week, use 3 20-minute sessions of time and write down first what your life you want it to look like in the year 2030. And just think to yourself, spending at least 20 minutes of writing this down. What could my life look like in my sex life, in my relationships? In like, for instance, in your sex life, you want to put down, we're talking about coulds here. And the coulds could be, it could be that I'm not having any sex. It could be that I have lovely harem of men or women, and they're just like surrounding me all the time and taking care of all of my sexual needs, and whatever would be your fantasies. But what could it look like in the year 2030? And so write down all the coulds, the goods and the bads, not just like the fantasy, but also you got to write down the bads as well. And so really brainstorm that, and then take another 20-minute session and go through and look at your list that you brainstorm, and then say, what will I do? Now, the areas that we want you to focus on is your sex life, your relationships. And your relationships are all kinds of different relationships. And that, like Kat's last month in December, she did her 31-day radical relationship challenge. And she dealt with all kinds of different relationships, because we all have different kinds of relationships. We have a relationship with ourselves. That's the longest running relationship that you have. You know, you got the longer relationship with yourself than you do anybody else. And there's things like Kat talked about in her series on when she did the video on your relationship with yourself, and some things to think about with that. And now, if you didn't see that series, then just make sure you subscribe to the email, and the link is down there in the description box. But subscribe to our email, because I'll be taking and finishing up and sending out the final email probably Thursday or Friday this week, that will be catching everybody up on the final. It'll have all the whole series in there of her 31-day relationship challenge. And so then you'll be able to kind of go through that on your own time, your own pace. But so yeah, what will your relationships be like? You know, you got a relationship with yourself, you got a relationship with relatives, you got a relationship with the people you do business with, you know, the gas attendant, and, you know, you got a relationship with your banker and your insurance agent and your doctor and maybe a plumber, all these different kinds of relationships. You get your romantic relationships. You know, I got relationships with those that I in my romantic life that are like Chris and Kat, that, you know, that are like, you know, my long-term committed partners. But then I have relationships with other people that I don't have long-term commitments with, but yet they're lovely, juicy sexual relationships that I have in my life, and they're ongoing sexual relationships. And so I call these my lovers, my girlfriends, my friends with benefits, my fuck buddies, you know, and there's different types of relationships that I have with all these. And they're lovely. And so, you know, think about then what could your life look like in 2030? And then from there, you start to think about, okay, what really is really very possible that it will look like. And you start to pick that out. And then what you end up with is the third session, 20-minute session is that you pull all that together and you end up writing out a statement, like a page long, you know, a couple paragraphs as to what your life is in 2030 is going to look like. And that's where you paint the vision then. And you want that written out in clear detail. And this is where your words become so important and so powerful. Now, in the process right now, I'm just going to get you started, because then there's a lot more that you will be growing along the way, learning about the power to use the power of your words. And quite honestly, you know, when you first do this exercise and you create this vision, there are going to be things that you're going to change. But the thing is you always want to keep that vision put together so that it's out there in front. And so we got your sex life, we've got your relationships. The other things we want to cover is your work and your wealth. And then you want to cover your health and your wellness. And so 6 different topics that you really want to take, and which is just really 3 areas. You know, your relationships and sex is that we put them in one category, or like when doing our courses, the 16-week course, we'll be talking about love, relationships, and sex. Second area is your work and your wealth. Third area is your health and wellness. And so you want to then, create this vision for yourself. What could that look like? What do you really want it to look like? And then that's the last part of it, is really what you want it to look like. Like, I know, you know, I started out 34 weeks ago, I think, making these videos. And at that time, I know what I wanted. And I wanted my life to look like where I was making $20,000 a month of ongoing revenue through the internet. And so I knew what that looked like. But, you know, the thing is, though, is that as things start to, when you're in this flow state and you're flowing in the direction of your abundant ocean, then the closer you get to that abundant ocean, it's like the more exciting that you can get. And then opportunities start coming to you, and you see the connections you make with people. And this is part of the magnetic energy that we talk about in our 16-week course. course, we help people to develop and unbury their magnetic energy in their life. And that it's something you're born with, but your magnetism, but yet it's something that most of us cover up or bury. And so we're going to help people to uncover it. But then, so then, you create this vision, and then as you go along, and as you're in this we call the flow state, that vision starts to expand because you see these connections being made with people and opportunities that keep coming to you. And that's where now my vision has blown up to where by the end of 2030, I want to be making $200,000 a month. Not a year, $200,000 a month. And yeah, I perfectly believe that I'm going to be doing that, because that's the power of creating with your words. When you start getting your words in order here, where you got your words that are able to impact your feelings and your thoughts, that's then how you create your life. And so I got myself into this flow state, like I mentioned here, and I'm flowing along. And yeah, I started out 34 weeks ago. I started making these videos that, I knew my goal was to make $5,000 a month and to make $20,000 is my end goal that I really wanted to get to. And now it's $200,000 a month. But so I want to share with you just a little bit about some of the things and the items that I have picked here, and not to really, I want to give you an idea of how detailed you want to be and so forth. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you what my vision is. Okay. And I said that for you, I says, you want to take and create this vision that's written out on a piece of paper. And this is what I have written out on my piece of paper. And so I'll just go ahead and read it to you. I want to be part of a chosen family where I am in a relationship and living with multiple bisexual women and a few bisexual men who all have sex with each other as well as with me. Being part of a chosen family structure is one way that everyone has sexual abundance. The next item. I want to be part of an ethical and consensual non-monogamous tribe where each week there is an event in the area that the members of the tribe can attend and have just a great time having sex together, so that everybody has sexual abundance, having more sex with more people more often. Now, those first two things are something that I'm now actually working actively on creating through Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. One of the things is that yes, I can just create it in my own life, but I'm creating a structure to make that all happen so that it can expand beyond what I do. Whereas, yes, I create first in my own life. And then after I create it in my life, I expand it out from there. And through Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, which is my nonprofit business that I've co-founded. And so through Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, then I'm able to take and help other people all over the world be part of a network. And then I want to take the tribes that we are able to have all over the world. I want to be able to have a network of these tribes. And so that people, if they move from one place to another, or as they're traveling, if they want to hook in and be connected with a local tribe, they can do that. And it'd be one of those situations, though, that you really want to make sure that you stay in good standing in your tribe and also your chosen family. And that if you're not in good standing, you're not going to get a good recommendation or referral. And so, there's some accountability here with this structure of the tribes and chosen families, so that people are staying and being good to each other. So those are the first two things. And the next thing is I want a team of over 100 full-time people in the Philippines creating joint venture partnerships with me, and 10,000 people living an ethical and consensual non-monogamous life who are creating financial liberation for themselves. That's two things in one, because the team in the Philippines that I'll be creating, and that I'll have over 100 people in the Philippines that are really doing the work on building these various types of businesses, that then I work in the United States. My goal is by 2030 to have 10,000 people that live ethically and consensually non-monogamous lives, that I'm working with them and they're working with the team that I put together in the Philippines, that whereas then they were really only spending less than 5 hours a week in creating these businesses, because all the work's being done with my team in the Philippines. And so I want to help 10,000 people to create in their own life financial liberation. I'm doing it for selfish reasons. I really enjoyed being able to have people to spend time with. I'm very social, and I enjoy having people spend time with. And so if I want to take, for instance, and book a cruise, and like I said, I've been in the travel business in the past. And if I want to book a cruise, I can book a cruise all by myself, or with myself and one or two of my partners, but I'd rather book a cruise with 400 people, have 400 ethical and consensual non-monogamous people, or book a cruise with 2,000 people and just go ahead and take over the whole ship. And so these kinds of things is some of the things that I want to do in my future. And so I want to help 10,000 people that live an ethical and consensual non-monogamous life to also be financially liberated, so that they are not owned by time, somebody else controlling their time, and they're not owned by the dollar because of the paycheck, and they're financially liberated. And so we're doing that with the team of 100 people or more that we'll create in the Philippines. So on to the next thing, that I want to live a simple, minimalistic, location-independent life where I float around between homes, and each year I spend a minimum of 1 month living in 4 different countries. And that I'm not really planning on spending most of my time in the United States. There's a lot of other wonderful, amazing places in this world, and I don't understand how people are so reluctant to like go somewhere else and see that they're actually treated better somewhere else than they are oftentimes in the United States. And so as I start to make that part of my own life, where I'm traveling more, and obviously I was going to be traveling by now. Last year, my trip to the Philippines got canceled because the week before the airplane was to take off, COVID hit and they canceled the flight. But and so I want to live in other countries. The Philippines being one country, but then there'll be several countries that I want to live in. And so as I travel around, and I want to live probably at least a month at a time, if not more, in 4 different countries, and yet live a very minimalistic life. I want to be able to take and have, the basic needs, like, underwear and clothes and shoes and socks and toothbrush and razor and shaving gear at each of the places that I live, and then just float around and enjoy my life that way. And, just literally just take 1 or 2 small carry-on bags onto an airplane with me and go off to the next place. And so that's kind of the life that I want to create on that end of it. But it's a very minimalistic life, because, I talk about making $200,000 a month. I'll be talking more about why, I don't need a lot of money to live on. I love my simple life. I love my simple life, just that it's full of sex and time and decent food, healthy food, and activities like bicycling and hiking. And so it's like, it doesn't take a lot of money for my life. So on going on to the next one then, is that I am a financially liberated and I have to start reading this one from the beginning again. I am financially liberated, having an abundance of income made from multiple sources online. You see, financially liberated means that I don't have to worry about trading time for dollars, that I have a laptop lifestyle, ongoing income coming in to me that I, take care of over the internet, and have my team in the Philippines that takes care of things. Mostly every week then I meet with my team in the Philippines virtually over the internet, and everybody then knows what to do, and then I can go out and live my life and know that everything's taken care of. And I know people that are living exactly this way. My mentor, Chris Duncan in Australia, he I forget, he's got a team of like about 35 people now that, he works about 20 hours a week. Another mentor that I have, Alec, I'm paying him $1,000 a week right now. And he has a team of, I think, 37 people now. And another mentor I have, that he says he works a maximum of 16 hours a week, and kind of right between 10 and 16 hours a week. And then he has a team of about 40 people that are all in the Philippines. And he hasn't been to the Philippines himself since 2010. And yet he's got this team of about 40 people in the Philippines. And so, this is the kind of life that I feel like I know how to create, and I can create it. And I want to help then those people that are ethically and consensually non-monogamous. Like I said, 10,000 people by 2030 do the same, create the same kind of thing. But so I want to live an abundant life, though. I want to be able, what that means, though, even though I don't require a lot, that means that an abundant life means that if there's somewhere I want to go, I don't have to consult the budget. I just go. If there's, whether it be going out for coffee or to a restaurant, or to be going from the Philippines on an airplane to Germany on an airplane, and going somewhere, or if there's a resort that I want to go and stay in, I just go. That's the kind of abundance that I want. And as being in the travel business, and I'm going to grab a little swig here. Having traveled, not as much as a lot of people, but when my travel was for fun and leisure, it was not for work. I meet these people that, I traveled here and here and here, a lot more places than I ever did, but it was the company sending them there, and they worked. They didn't really go there on, leisure. Different kind of travel, as most of you probably know. But so, most of the traveling that I did was totally leisure. And yeah, after a while, if you've been to, if you've been on, like, I've been like, around the world, maybe 40, 50 resorts. And after a while, there's not a lot more resorts that you care to go to that are going to be that much different. And so that you start running into that situation after a while, which then, you want to be able to be in nice places, but you don't have this urge, I got to go here, I got to go there, I got to go everywhere, life becomes much simpler. Okay, so I want to be able to take and have 100 trained and certified coaches and teachers working through the ELF Academy. That's that academy, or that I told you about, the link where we're going ahead and we just kicked that off. There's a link down there in the description, and we just kicked that off, and we have free memberships in the academy right now. I can't remember if I put a link in the description for the free memberships or not, but I believe I did. And so we got some free memberships to the academy right now. They're lifetime memberships. You'll not have to ever pay a dime for that membership as well. But so free membership for the ELF Academy. But I want to be able to have 100 trained and certified coaches and teachers that work in the ELF Academy. And what they're doing is they're helping people to live a magnetic ELF, easy, liberated, and fun, ECNM, ethical, consensual, and non-monogamous life that they love the most. It's abundant in satisfaction and pleasure. And that's kind of the mission then of the ELF Academy. I want to have 100 trained and certified coaches and teachers that are there helping people and being able to live a magnetic ELF ECNM life that they love the most. So then, continuing on down my list, I've got to get over here to the scroll bar with my mouse. There we go. So I want the ECNM, that's ethical, consensual, and non-monogamy, to be a part of the company diversity programs at over 100,000 companies in the United States. with over 10,000 and also over 10,000 corporations being a part of Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. So in other words, kind of modeling after what the LGBT community has done. And a lot of companies have diversity programs so that for ethnicities and religion and race and gender and identity and things of this nature. And so, there's companies then, if you look at their company diversity policy, they really try to take and make sure they're creating a good workplace that is good for all the people in those different communities. But the thing that's not being addressed in those diversity plans and programs at all is people living an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life. And I've talked over the years to many people where, for instance, like it comes to picnics in the summer, company picnics and holiday gatherings, the company Christmas party, and in Seattle in the summer, a lot of companies that I'm familiar with would give their employees baseball game tickets, so they, hey, go get a baseball game, you and your wife, or you and your girlfriend. Well, how about someone who lives like I want to live then, the life that I want to create, where I live with 4 women, and so living with 4 women, and I get myself 1 ticket and I get somebody else 1 ticket, and so there needs to be things addressed with these diversity programs so that people who live ethical and consensual non-monogamous lives can live a life. And, it comes to things like health insurance or things about, what if I live with 4 women and, I'm not married to any of them legally, but let's say one of them gets pregnant and I want to be able to take and help that woman then to be able to, care for that child in their early months and so forth, and if I was working in a corporation, I'd want to have in that diversity program of that corporation that I could take time off for any of the 4 women that I live with that are my partners. And so these kinds of things need to be addressed in these diversity policies. And it's something that Kat and I are going to start focusing on next year, putting a lot of resources, a lot of effort into this next year, where we're starting to connect with corporations and start some conversations going about these things. So that's a goal, though, is to have 100,000 companies in the U.S. have ECNM being a part of their diversity program, and 10,000 corporations. And companies could be a small company like, I had a small company, I think 9 employees, and so that's a small company. But then there's corporations, and I want to have 10,000 corporations. I forget there's something like 60,000 corporations in the United States that have over 100 employees, and so I figure 10,000 is a good number to shoot for, having 10,000 corporations. But that would actually be, that pay a fee every year to be part of the nonprofit Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, and they would be corporate sponsors. Okay, so going on to the next one. I want to bring 200 ethical and consensual non-monogamous people together on vacations, retreats, campouts, and other trips each and every week through Travel with Benefits and Fet Vacations. These are my travel businesses. I don't currently have them active and going. I haven't for a couple of years. Whew, good thing with COVID, I tell you. Okay, but I got out of the travel business a couple of years ago, and but it's a business that I want to get back into. I own the URLs, the websites for travelwithbenefits.com and also fetvacations.com. And so I want to then create, as part of my team in the Philippines, create a travel team. And then eventually we'll get those going, and so that, yeah, if you want, you could take and contact my travel team, for instance, and say, hey, I just love every year having a camp out at this place, or going on to this resort, or things that I want to be able to have 200 people that live ethically and consensually non-monogamous life each and every week, being able to be sending out on various vacations, retreats, campouts, and other trips throughout the world, that are all connected then through the travel with benefits or FET vacations. And so that's another objective of mine. 200 people every single week. So, and then I want to go on to the next one. I want to go on 2 bicycle tours each year of 1,000 miles or more, along with a group of ELF ECNM freedom seekers. And so, yeah, I love to get out on the bicycle, and there's great places to go for anywhere from rides of 1,000 miles to 4,000 miles. And so I'd like to put together some groups of people who live an easy, liberated, fun, ethical, consensual, non-monogamous life. And we go out on some of these bike tours. And so 1,000 miles, if you think, wow, that's crazy. Well, if you take and break it down 50 miles a day, and that's not a lot of miles to ride on a bike when you really get into it. 50 miles is not a lot at all. And so 50 miles a day, 1,000 miles is just 20 days. And so, and I know people that ride 100 miles a day. And that's just 10 days you can do 1,000 miles. So I want to do 2 bicycle tours like that each and every year and be able to take a bunch of people with me that live an ELF ECNM life. I want to create and be part of an ethically and consensually non-monogamous shared living community where everyone in the community has access without ownership to more resources. And that's a kind of a growing term that's coming along, by the way, is access without ownership for people who lived in shared communities. And so that they have access without ownership to more resources that give our lives more satisfaction and pleasure and better utilize those resources. Resources like camping and sporting gear, boats, trailers, RVs, cars, clothes. And so where you don't have to always go out there, buy these things and own these things that really are utilized, way underutilized. And so by having a shared community, and there's a number of different ways of creating these shared communities, and won't go into the details about that now, but by creating an ethical and consensual non-monogamous shared community of people, then we can take and start to share some resources and have access without ownership and increase our livelihoods without spending any more money than what we currently spend. It's crazy to go out and be making a car payment and for a household where there's 2 adults in it to be having 2 cars and making 2 car payments and 2 insurance payments and these kinds of things. Whereas if you could have a whole community, have enough cars parked on one block where there's always a car there available to you, but you have access to it, but you don't have to have ownership of it, and it can cost you 1/5 of what you're currently spending. On to the next one. I want to build a clothing optional apartment complex with a nice pool and some nice hot tubs where 400 people live an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life, and there is sexual abundance, having more sex with more people more often for all who live there, rather than sexual scarcity so many people experience now. Yeah, can you imagine then having an apartment complex where there's 400 people living in this complex, nice pool and whatever other amenities that we decide to put into it, and very affordable place, but a really nice place where it's clothing optional, and that there's just people, the sex is abundant. And so that's something I want to create as well. And so then I want to create the first clothing optional, ethical, consensual, and non-monogamous agricultural eco resort and wellness spa community. And so this will be on probably an island somewhere or some third world country like the Philippines or maybe somewhere else. Don't have a location or anything yet or anything like that. But imagine then a place where it's a clothing optional, ethical, consensual, non-monogamous agricultural eco resort and wellness community. Now call it a community instead of a resort, strictly a resort, because there would be people that are living there all the time, year round. There'll be people that just have a retirement or vacation homes there. There'll be people that have timeshares there. There'll be people that have there'll be hotels in hotel rooms and they can come in and spend a week's for a vacation there. And so there'd be that kind of a community. And so I want to create that. And the last thing here on my whole vision of things is that I want to make an online income of over $200,000 per month so that I have $10 million that I need in order to create a music company that I want to build. And I want to build a music company which will make a huge shift in our culture, as the music we create will all have an ethical and consensual non-monogamous message rather than the monogamous messages of so much of the music that you hear out there now. And we'd be creating music that would be being played on the radio and through the internet. And so it's, I got some very clear, very specific plans for this, but it's going to take a lot of money. And so that's where I need the $200,000 a month or $10 million. And it doesn't have to be all my money. You know, it just needs to come my way so that we can create this. That's all I care. If you got some money out there that you want to partner on any of this, I'm happy to have you come and talk with me about it. But it's just a matter of being able to take and have the vision to create all of this and start pulling everything together to make it happen. And so that then is what I am working on. And that's then the kind of a vision that you want to create for your life. Now, I'm going to then take and wrap up here with saying then that you want to create when you create this vision then of what your life you want it to look like in 2030, then take a look at that and ask yourself, of those three areas, sex and relationships, health and wellness, and work and wealth, of those three areas, what is the next big area that you need to be working on for the next 12 months? You know, and so for me, I knew that, yes, even though I have, you know, more desires for more sex with more people more often than what I'm having now, that, you know, I'm really pretty happy about my sex life right now. And I'm pretty happy about the relationships that I have in my life right now. And so, even though I want more relationships as well in my life, but yet I know the thing that I need to work and focus on mostly is getting the finances put together and to make it all start coming together. But you see, I didn't have those goals and desires when I was living a monogamous life. I didn't need some of those goals and desires. And that's where then I took that step. For me, it was life-changing. It was transformational. When I took that step and shifted my life and my marriage into being an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life, I couldn't have told you 14 years ago that it was going to put all these things in motion. I had no idea. But here I'm sitting here now 14 years later, and all these things are now in motion for the next 9 years. You know, they're in what I call the flow. And then I'm not at my abundant ocean this moment, but I am flowing to my abundant ocean. And that's an exciting thing. And so, you know, that's where I want to help you to take. Then next week, we're gonna wrap up this. We're going to talk to you about then how specifically then to take and start using the power of your words in creating this life that you love the most, this life of you being able to be in an abundant ocean. Okay, and so with that, we've gone a whole hour now, and so normally I would go ahead and share with you my screen and just pop over and share with you about, you know, where we're going, you know, basically the weekly wrap-up report, you know, my report for last week and then on to what I'm doing this week. But suffice us to say that, you know, really I'm working on a lot of just the same things. Not a lot is changing right now because I'm in that flow state. And, you know, last week I did start the new program where I'm paying a new coach $1,000 a week. Got a 15-week program where then I'm learning all about being able to put ads on YouTube. And so doing a lot with that, doing a lot with kicking off this 16-week program, coaching program, helping people to learn the 3 steps about living an easy, liberated, and fun life. And so that's kicking off on Wednesday night. and tomorrow night. And so I've been doing that a lot on that, and we'll be doing a lot on that for the next 16 weeks, and just have, a lot of the same things that are continuing to go on, and they're just all flowing. It's kind of like, I booked the plane tickets, made the reservations, booked the plane tickets, and now it's just staying in that flow to get there. And in this case, with the things that I'm working on, it's just a wonderful time to be stuck here in my home office because of COVID. Because, I mean, if it wasn't, kind of COVID going on, I wouldn't have as much time to be working on these things. But COVID has given me time because I like getting out, and I'm not getting out as much. And I like going out and meeting people, and I like having sex with more people more often, and which I'm not as much now. And so all these kinds of things, then, it's like, it's not bad because, I'm still enjoying sex with multiple women and having a great time with that. And I'm still getting out a little bit outside. I think I got outside on Saturday, and this coming Saturday, where it's mine and Kat's anniversary, we're actually going to go out hiking. And so I'm looking forward to that, and so I get out and get fresh air once in a while. But otherwise, I'm just really excited to be focused and be in flow to moving things forward. Because, it's like anything you get started with, they say it's that boulder. You got to get pushing that boulder, and you've got to get to a point where you got some momentum going. And once you get momentum going, then you can get inertia going as well. And so that's where right now I'm trying to just get the momentum going. And then once we get the momentum going, we'll get the inertia going. And so that's kind of when the inertia starts going, that's when everything just really is kicking in, and it just pretty well is running on its own. And it's like I just have to get out of the way, and get out of the way, make sure I don't get in the way. And that's what we know that things are in inertia. And so I'm going to be back then on next Monday night, about 8 o'clock. So come on back and join me then. But thanks for watching here tonight. I appreciate that. And I hope you have yourself a really great